Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. I am back in my little podcast seat. Didn't know if I was going to be back. And then I had so much feedback saying, keep it going. So I've put certain things in place and made it happen. So here we are back for series 2. We have been literally planning this conversation. I think you just said for a year, didn't you? Like we'd first started talking about it. So can you introduce yourself for this first episode of our second series of Postnatal Minds podcast? Please introduce yourself and your family to the listeners.
I am Chanene and I have 2 lovely children. I've got Jackson, who is 4 and has Down syndrome. And I have Lara May, who has just turned 3 last week. That's mad. And then I've got Lawrence, my partner, and then my 2 cats who might show up in a minute.
Love it how you said Lawrence then, like he's the third child and then
He
the
is.
older one. I mean, you and I have had many conversations over the last couple of years, particularly, but I guess I always think it's so busy having 2 so young anyway, and then you've had the added complexity of Jack's condition. And you know what's really funny actually is we've been planning this conversation for a long time, but I think since knowing you and with what's happened with Arlo, I've really kind of taken responsibility to learn more about genetic conditions, full stop. And in the last month, I have met so many people with Down syndrome. And yeah, it's really funny. So we were at a little, we went to Paddington Christmas thing last week with my sister-in-law, and I met Ellie from Strictly Come Dancing.
Very jealous.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, she was incredible. I was actually total fangirl. I was like, you're amazing. I said to her mum, oh my God, you must be so proud. And please can I have a picture? I think it's the first time I've ever asked for a picture of someone. So she was just incredible. And then I had a photo shoot with the kids last week for baby Maury. And on set with us was a 3.5-year-old girl called Gwenny. I know her mum won't mind me shouting her out because they're on social media and we're connected now. Beautiful,
Right.
beautiful little girl with hair, little blonde bob and fringe like Albie used to have when she was younger. So I was just totally in love with her, and she was an absolute superstar. So yeah, I've met a couple of amazing people with it in the
Oh,
last
that's
week.
nice.
So
I
yeah,
relate to the even though I was a Senko for quite a few years, and I'm a carer for a little boy with autism. So I kind of dabbled in like kind of various different needs, but never Down syndrome. And when I found out about Jack's, I remember being like, "Oh no, I don't know anything about it." And then all of a sudden, when I was walking out, even before he was born, I was starting to see people with Down syndrome. I was starting
you
to
see it
notice
more.
them
Yeah, we
because
did the
I think
same.
you yeah, and when you kind of have to learn about it or you have to kind of adapt to it, you then start realizing that you're not rudely ignoring them, but you're just becoming more aware of your surroundings and people around you.
Yeah, and do you know what? I was having this conversation with a friend with a son with Arlo's similar condition last week, and I think I did have to have a really honest and open conversation with myself when Arlo it was before he was even here, because until it happens to you and your family, you realise you did have preconceived, held kind of conceptions on
Yeah.
disability and conditions, and you don't, and we all have got a responsibility to learn about it. And as you said, it's when you're looking for something you do see it more. And I think it was just a big wake up call for me to
Yeah.
be like, wow, I think I have kind of like ignored it, I suppose you could say ignore, but because it didn't need to be in my life, I didn't
Just have the
really.
blinkers on.
Yeah, so I think I did have to have a big chat with myself, like what preconceived ideas do I have? And yeah, so much
And I
learning.
think as well, I don't know whether you experienced this when you were younger, but I feel like we've evolved so much now on getting to know about people's differences and like visual or, mental. But when I was younger, I was like, don't stare, that's rude.
Yeah,
So you kind of do, I guess, grow up thinking, well, I don't want to
it's
look
wrong.
because
Yeah,
that's wrong to look and be aware. But then actually you realise, well, you can notice people as long as you're noticing them with the softness that you would somebody else who
yeah,
hasn't
warm.
got a visible disability. Yes, yeah, just like that. So I think that kind of opened my eyes up a little bit, and I was like, okay, if people start staring at Jack's, that's
They're
it's
inquisitive.
okay as long
Yeah.
as it's done with kindness and a kind of like, "Hiya," not a, kind of thing. So
Yeah, we're really now Arlo is 2. We are noticing more and more the stairs because he's obviously
Mhm.
visually looking a lot different, and I think when he was a baby, it was more kind of disguised, whereas now we're so tuned into him, we don't see it, and then we go into a public space and we're like, "Oh, yeah," and you kind of have to train yourself and kind of it can take you back sometimes, like, even at
Yeah.
the school gates, I'll have kids really glaring or kind of parents looking and then smiling, and I think Lloyd in particular has kind of really struggled with it, and I said, "I think it's something we really need to think about because it's not gonna go away. We need
No.
to learn that it's not done with malice, it's done with people looking, thinking, they're different, and sometimes people don't realise they're just interested." Yeah, but we've really started having that conversation because we are going to be stared at for the rest of our lives now, and that's the reality. But yeah, like you said, as long as it's not done in a horrible way, and you can even like smile or open up a conversation of like, he looks quite different, doesn't he? Because I saw a girl at the weekend look at him and then say to her dad, his head. And I kind of looked at her and I really wanted to go over and be like, he does it really different, doesn't he? But
Yeah.
then the longer we sat there, the more she could see that he was sassy and he was actually flirting with her totally. And they ended up like waving to each other across the thing. And, I think it's getting that balance, isn't it? Of not
It's
always telling people and allowing people to feel, like you said, allowing people to feel comfortable to approach you. Like I said this in an episode before about Ellie Simmons saying, don't say to your children, don't stare, darling, come on. Say, yeah, he looks different, doesn't he? You know, open up that conversation about disability. Like, I promise you that parent will not mind you going over and saying, can you tell us a little bit
yeah.
about what's your name and can you tell us about yourself? And
I
we'd rather
actually
that.
actually prefer that because there's been some instances where you have the stares and the whispers, and when you're kind of on high alert anyway because you know that people are looking because it's a visible disability, it's then you can't help but go to they're saying something mean or they're judging or they're wondering like how old he is or this, that, the other. Whereas somebody who's kind of like looked, smiled and been like, is that T21? And I'm like, yes, it is. And then it's kind of
So
we
refreshing.
open it, yeah, and then I'm like, "Oh, you're not staring out of kind of confusion or something. You're kind of just looking because you're a people watcher like me, because I
Mm,
find
hmm
myself doing it a lot.
hmm
Like, if we all notice people, I'm the worst people watcher there is. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I much prefer if people just ask or just acknowledge him the same you would with my little girl Lara. Like, people will say, "Oh, that's a nice hat you've got on to Lara." But then sometimes I feel like they're kind of not sure how to
right.
approach Jax, and I'm like, he is, a human. So just
Yeah,
like to smile and say, and he might kind of grunt at you or sign Makaton and you won't understand. But I'm there and I'm his
can
interpreter.
translate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole topic in itself, isn't it? And I think it's so much easier as a mum and a parent, or even not excluding fathers, but to jump to that like inner critic of
Yeah.
like you said, a negative reason why someone's staring. And usually it's just because they think they're really cute and they want to learn
Yeah.
more, or, people can look, but just because it's not that condition as well. But
Yeah.
anyway, tell us a little bit about Jax. What is he like at 4 now? Because I know we had a lot of conversations, and we'll talk about this a little bit later about school and that wild experience anyway, let alone, sending your child with the difference. But yeah, tell us about Jax.
Yeah. So he is a ball of energy. He is honestly, I don't even know where to start because, like, this morning I'd taken him to school and he had a week off last week. So this morning he didn't have the nicest of starts to the day. He was just screaming at school and didn't want to go in because obviously the breaking routine. But normally, prior to that, he would just be so smiley. He's so energetic now, which is really good. He is a little comedian. He loves making you laugh, and when he finds something that can make you laugh, he'll keep going, and he adapts it to different people. He's very, very clever. And yeah, he's the best big brother to Lara, but also has moments where that frustration is very like, frustrating. So they do have a love-hate relationship, but then all siblings do, don't they?
Yeah, totally. And I know before you used to feel quite worried because the clashes were more often than weren't they? And he would kind of lash out at Lara, and that used to be
Yeah.
quite stressful for you to try and take them both out together, I remember you saying.
Yeah, it's still a a challenge and can sometimes be really draining. But they are really good now with like the little kind of preparation that we have before
You've
giving them.
learned how to.
Yeah, I've learned how to kind of give them both the attention and kind of communication they need individually, which I think that's where maybe not I was going wrong, but that was just what I had to learn and navigate was because, Jackson can follow instructions, but he can't he can't do like the now and next. He doesn't realize or understand that okay, we're getting our shoes on and then our coat on and then we're getting our hat and then we're going to go. He's like, well, you said we're going, so he's by the door and he's ready to go. Whereas Lara's like, I'm going to go and find my hat. I'm going to go and find my gloves, and
Okay.
so that's very different. So I kind of have to get Jackson ready before I tell him that we're going, and then
Right.
he's less frustrated when we're kind of leaving because I'm like, "Oh, we're ready to go," and that's it. He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
That's a beautiful example of adaptive motherhood, but it does also, make me think you must be exhausted by the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. It can be quite, yeah, it can be quite full, and there's no sugarcoating it.
Mm,
Some days are a lot harder than others, especially when there's like illnesses, which at this time of year there's been
yeah,
obviously a lot of illnesses. And yeah, so it can be at the pushback. There's a lot of pushback with any route, even if it's like the simplest of just going to brush teeth. There's always a pushback. There's always a challenge, and it doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes 15 with
the
like
patience levels must have to,
yeah.
yeah, and also then that kind of self-regulation for you to come down from that response as well.
Which, yeah, it's funny you say it because I will mention that's one of the things that I've struggled with the most
Mm, mm.
with having two children very young, but also with Jackson and his additional needs. It's brought out a lot of things that I guess I struggled with as a kid, and now as an adult, I'm watching my kids struggle with. So like that is quite hard because that like having that patience and it's you can't just regulate like that. So then when you're trying to regulate somebody else's emotions and you got to get to school for, I've got to leave here
Yeah,
at like
you've got a time.
8:30,
Yeah.
and I then have to keep myself calm because otherwise it makes it yeah, that's huge. And I
You
think
can it does throw you back to when you were younger, and then you suddenly have to be like, "God, no, I am the parent. I've got to compress this." Yeah.
you have to kind of put yourself second, which obviously we do, but sometimes like, by Friday, and we've done it like 4 times, and this is the fifth day, and we're like, oh my goodness, can you not just get your shoes on and go? Because I'm
Yeah.
tired. But yeah, so that getting out and about is thing. But school has done wonders for him.
I
Um,
can't wait to talk about that. And the boys have actually both Jack's just had a really similar operation to Arlo. He had his tonsils out, didn't he?
Yeah, so he went down to have his tonsils and adenoids out, but
Oh, so he
bizarrely
had them both out?
well, no, because when they looked at his adenoids, they were, like, not there. Apparently, they can
Oh,
shrink and with
okay.
age. So, actually, it was just the tonsils, but he was due to have them both out. But, yeah, so
Okay, so Arlo had both out and his were huge, so that's
oh,
interesting. But
okay. Yeah.
we were just saying for anyone listening that, maybe has had a child that's had that operation. I feel like I don't know if I had a bit of a harder, I mean, obviously what happened with us was quite unique in the sense of Arlo deteriorating, but just the recovery, I feel was so underestimated. He was
Brutal.
so poorly and the lack of sleep. I think it's honestly taken 5, 6 weeks for us to get back into any kind of whatever a normal is now. But they were saying, a week or two. No, that was a big recovery.
It was yeah, I was the same, I really underestimated it. And, I saw that you'd put on little one, bless him, he had had to
Yeah.
go through the Evelina, didn't he? Which must have been horrific. And I kind of had to do you know when you're going through something so similar that when you're doing it at the same time, you're like, right, I need to not
Can't
look.
focus on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw a story come up and I was like, I'm just going to think because I feel like I want to be caring for you, but I'm panicking and
Yeah, because I had messaged you, hadn't I, saying
yeah,
Arlo's just had it and he's really struggling. Or no, he's about to have it or something. Arlo's having it next week. I can't remember what it was. And then obviously we
yeah.
went in on the Friday and then for anyone, yeah, just to quickly summarize because it's helpful. He came round from the operation and just couldn't really breathe properly and just deteriorated, and his oxygen and his carbon dioxide levels dropped, and they had to
Mm.
kick him back down to theatre a couple of hours later and intubate him, which means that he was on a ventilator with a machine breathing for him and put under sedation. And he was then collected by a retrieval team and with two doctors and a nurse, and we were blue lighted to Evelina. So yeah, it was a bit of a wild time. But I mean, he was sedated for 2 days, and then he was extubated on the Monday, and he was home by Wednesday. It was wild. I look back now and I'm like, what? I don't think I've processed it really. It was only 2 months ago, but
Yeah.
the bounce back ability and resilience of these children is nothing short of a miracle. It is
I always
incredible.
and I always feel like, which is a really good thing, but we're then stuck with the trauma of it because then they're like back to
They're not going
normal.
to
They're
remember.
no, they're in the good years where like something happens and unless they see a picture, they won't even know that it's happened. But yeah, no, you did send some really good advice. I remember because I said that we were going through to it and which is exactly what you were saying before. Like, do you know, when you kind of think, oh, 2 weeks is going to be fine. And then when it's not 2 weeks and the process is harder, it's really draining, seeing them in pain. Like Jackson was in so
Yeah,
much pain.
you can't
And
do
I remember you just told me like, keep up with the meds, don't underestimate it. And like,
set alarms.
set alarms
Yeah,
and stuff, which I did all of the above. Um, and it was going really not well. It was hard, but he was doing okay. And then on the Sunday, I think, so he had it on the Tuesday, and on the Sunday, he just stopped eating because I think it hurt. And then we couldn't get anything in him. And then the next morning, he woke up and he was just coughing up blood. And it was all over our bed and everything. And I was just like, right, ambulance. And the ambulance were absolutely brilliant. They were here within like 5 minutes and took us back to Brighton. And luckily, he didn't need to go back to theatre. It was just a case of where he hadn't been eating, there'd been some collection of
scar tissue.
scar tissue.
Yeah,
And he just couldn't get it down, stuff. So we had to stay in hospital just for like 24 hours, I think it was. And then we managed to go home. But then even like the healing after that, he was just not wanting to eat. He was so angry. He was just not himself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Arlo
Really.
loves his food as well, so it's just so easy to know that. Knew it would take him quite a lot longer because obviously he was pumped full of so many medications from that day. Yeah, I mean, we are probably only 2 months later, like just getting back into what we were before. Well, before his oxygen, before, but yeah, wild experience. Anyway, we've gone off on a massive tangent of adenoid and tonsil removal, but there you go. So I want to take you back to the early days, pregnancy,
Mhm.
birth, diagnosis. Looking back, what were the early days like?
Well, it's during COVID, which was a lovely time to be pregnant. So we were actually trying for a year. And it was just before COVID started. So I don't know why I get so defensive about that because everyone's like, "Oh, COVID baby." I was like, "We were trying before." But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah,
we were
none of
trying.
us, because Alba is the same age as Jack's, but older, and we didn't. Yeah, COVID didn't start really until they were kind of born or towards the
Yeah,
end of our
yeah.
pregnancies.
So I
Yeah,
was like, "Wasn't COVID baby?" But yeah, so we fell pregnant literally a year after trying. And yeah, it was obviously as you imagine it to be within those times, which was like just, if anything, it was so lovely because we were just in that baby bubble. And because COVID was around, obviously, you had to be careful and stuff. It just meant that we could just be in that little cushy bubble. We didn't tell anybody, and we didn't like announce on social media or anything, just because we just wanted it just to be us. And the world was so like scary at that time. It was like,
mm,
let's just kind of
it was
keep
easier to
ourselves
do
safe.
that. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, and I also wanted to do that, you know, like stealth baby, where all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, Chanene and Lawrence have a baby. Where did that come from?
yeah.
But yeah, and it was a fairly smooth pregnancy. But I was weirdly happy that I messaged my best friend about this because I went on holiday and I was 10 weeks pregnant and I had an early scan because I'd had a couple of losses before. So I wanted to have an
Okay.
early scan because I was going away with work for with my nanny family. And I saw the little scan, it was beautiful, but then I kept looking at it and I just had this weird feeling and I was just like, oh. And then I was searching online at like normal ultrasounds at 10 weeks and for
So
some
what did
reason.
you see that made you feel like that?
So, he's like a really small jelly bean, and then behind the back of his head, he had a lot of space, and then
Okay.
it joined, and I was like, "Oh, I've seen that before," and I like, it just looks a bit weird. So then I put it into Google, like the Google image, and it come up, and then it come up loads of Down syndrome pictures of ultrasounds, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And I turned around and sent a picture to my friend Amber and said, "Oh, I think baby has Down syndrome." She was like, "Why? Like, you're 10 weeks, like,
Yeah, so
where's this come
early.
from?" And I was just like, "I don't know, I've just got this really weird feeling," and I am an overthinker, so she was also like, "Oh, classic Chanene," and stuff, and, I sent her
Okay.
a picture, but then that was it, but then I couldn't get it out of my head. I was having dreams about having a baby with Down syndrome.
Really?
Yeah, and, it just every scan picture, every scan that we went to, I was asking like, "Oh, does baby look normal?" And they're like, "Yeah, baby looks fine. Why?" And I didn't opt to have the reading at the back of the head done, and I think that was me because I'm such an overthinker. I thought if I had like, there's a chance of it being, I'd be like, I need to know. Like, it would drive me crazy. So I was just like, I just don't want to know because it's not going to change anything.
I was gonna
I
say, would you yeah, because I guess that response might be different if you were someone who felt like they couldn't continue a
yeah,
pregnancy if yeah.
yeah. But for me, unless anything was like physically like dangerous, like,
Okay.
obviously one thing I knew from thing and, like, that
You
it
will
would not
go.
change anything. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna whatever it's gonna be is gonna be and stuff, which is really bizarre because I think I don't know why I was like that, and I just kinda went with it, and my partner Lawrence was really supportive, was like, "That's fine, like, it's not stopping us finding out about baby's health, it's just finding out that one thing." So, yeah, on every for instance, we had a 3D scan, and on that scan picture, I was looking, and I just remember, like, it was almost like I was dissociating, and I was looking at the scan, I was like, "Does baby look like it's got Down syndrome?" She was like, "Why'd you say that?" I was like, "Oh, I just wondered." And she was just like and Lawrence was like, "You said that at every scan picture," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." But anyway, didn't know anything, and it was beautiful. I was very big, so I was
So
having
can you sorry, I'm learning
no,
as
yeah.
you can't can you tell from an ultrasound at any point, or is it just that nuchal test?
You you, you can, but obviously nothing's 100% as you know. So it is because it's the fluid behind the back of their neck that they
Yeah.
measure. And I'll send you a picture of Jackson's first scan because it's quite interesting because quite a lot of people ask like, why did you think that? And so I'll send you a picture of it because then you'll be able to see. But
Okay.
yeah, it's quite big. So that can be quite an obvious sign. But again, at 10 weeks, it was going to be a little bit bigger. But then in the
Yeah.
12-week one, I could still notice it a little. And I compare it to Lara's and it's very different. But then
Okay.
it could have just been a coincidence, so
Right.
yeah, but then, yes, I Lawrence come to the 2 scans because during COVID, he couldn't go to any extra, so then I
Yeah.
remember at 34 weeks, so it was on I think it was the 7th of January, and, I went for a growth scan at Worthing, and I remember that day very clearly because I'd done my hair and makeup, it had been literally
How
since
far gone were you, Chanene, by this point?
34 weeks.
Okay.
Baby was all healthy and nothing was flagged up or anything like that, but prior to the 20-week scan and anything. And yeah, I went to that and then I had the whole normal thing. And then as she was going over my tummy, I just remember her like really pausing and going over something. And then she was just like, "Oh, just wait 1 second. I just need to go and get someone." And then as soon as that happens, you just know, like,
Were you on your
it's just
own?
like, I was on my own, yeah, because Lawrence wasn't allowed to come. So, and it was, I, d- I don't know how I coped in that moment, but I remember I quickly rung Lawrence and I was like, "Something's wrong with baby," and he was like, "What?" And he was all the way at work in Brighton, well, Portslade, and he was just like, "What?" And I was like, "She's gone to get someone." He was like, "Okay, hold on, wait 1 second, call me when they come back in." And I was like, she's coming," and I was taking pictures of the screen and then come back in and the doctors come in very quiet and went over
Oh,
the baby bump and just stare, and I just remember like staring. I wasn't staring at the screen, I was staring at them because I was
yeah,
like, I'm
I
trying to
did the same.
I
Yeah.
was just like, "What are you doing? Like, are they making expressions?" But then they said that they had found something called a double bubble on the ultrasound, which is a blockage in the lower bowel, the bowel
Okay.
intestines, and that's what they call it, a double bubble. And I was like, "Okay, what was a double bubble?" And I
Yeah.
was just like, "This is so bizarre." And they said, "Well, we're gonna go through and speak to a specialist, so you're gonna go through to this room. And I just remember it was just a cozy room with like one box of tissues on the side, and I was just sat there on my own. I was already like shaking. Do you know, you go into like, ooh. And then they're really lovely, but they come in and just said that I'd need to go to the Evelina in London or the hospital in Southampton. And at this time, obviously, because COVID was still going on, we went for Southampton because it was lower
For
COVID
another
rate.
scan, sorry.
Or another scan, yeah, because
Okay.
with a double bubble, which now I know is duodenal atresia, which is a block in the bowel. It's either a blockage or a narrowing. So, and that I had polyhydranged, the extra fluid.
Hydraminosis, I had it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have like the extra fluid and stuff. So,
I was huge. I was huge by the time for such a small baby, I was huge. Yeah.
Mad. And then within that conversation, I remember she turned around and said that with this condition, 1 in 3 babies born with it have Down syndrome. And in that moment, I was like, I knew it. But it also felt like I was like, this isn't me. Like out of body experience. I was on my own. I was like crying. I was shaking. And then I was also just remember like holding my tummy but feeling weird. I was just like, oh. And so I called Lawrence and told him, and he was like, right, go to Southampton. It's less, he made the decision. He was like, it's less COVID, easier parking. I was like, well, that makes sense.
Practical. Yeah.
And it would be, so this was on a Friday. So this was on the Monday. They'd get me in as an emergency.
Yeah, that was the same as us. So,
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
You described the out of body experience, and I just
Mm.
totally get what you're saying when I guess that's the nice thing about speaking to someone who just knows what that feeling is. But did you feel, because you spend so much of a pregnancy bonding, I think, with your child and particularly your first one, and I've always found it quite hard to articulate what that feeling is about that kind of detachment, because you mentally just detach, don't you, from reality? And the love and the attachment's still there, but you kind of de-bond with your pregnancy because you feel like your body has,
Let you down.
yeah,
Yeah. In that moment, I just remember like holding my tummy, but it was in like a different way. It wasn't like a rubbing my tummy. It was literally just putting my hands on my belly and being like, what's like, why couldn't you just make a healthy baby?
be
You,
simple.
and
Yeah.
you do go into that. We all do it, don't we? We're like, why me? Why me? And I think in that moment, it was like, I don't deserve this. Why me? And as well, because I knew that there was like a medical thing as well. Like I knew that the Down syndrome was the one that hit the hardest, but knowing that
On
this
top of that.
would have like no matter what, if it was a double bubble, it would need a surgery to correct. Like that's the
Yeah,
only way
so
to be
doubly,
fixed.
doubly
So
cruel, isn't it?
yeah, so I was just like, oh, and then obviously they were like, because I'd had reduced movements through the end of my pregnancy. So they were then like, told me in that moment, obviously you can go, we're going to take your bloods and we're going to do the test. It's a non-invasive test to test about if your baby has Down syndrome. So they take my blood and they can test. It's quite clever how they do
Okay.
that. Don't know
So you
whether,
didn't have to have an
no,
amniocentesis.
no,
Yeah,
because I thought,
I had to have one there and then, and that, I mean, by that point I was quite numb. I was like, whatever.
yeah,
You just told me this news, so yeah, go
yeah,
do whatever you want, honeys. But yeah, that's good. That's great that you didn't have to have one because they're not very
no,
pleasant things to have done.
yeah, no, I was petrified of that as well, and was just like, as soon as I said, "Oh, we're going to do it," I was like, "I don't want that." And they were like, "No, no, no, it's a non-invasive blood test," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." It's called a nip test, nip.
Okay, I haven't heard of that.
But yeah, so and that would take a couple of weeks to come back. So yeah, then at the weekend they were like, if any reduced movements or you just feel ill or anything like that, then just come straight back to us. And I was like, okay. And I was like, should I be scared? And they were like, well, we just need to, until we know more, we just need to know like there is a potential blockage in there, and that could mean that he could stop breathe, like baby could stop breathing at any time. We didn't know if girl and boy at this point. And I was just like, oh, okay. So I think that weekend I was just like really numb. I just remember I was crying, but like it was just, I don't know, like I was crying, but I wasn't emotional. It's so weird. Like my body was reacting, but like my brain was just like, why are you crying? Like,
Do you think it's like panic?
I think so. I think, like, I almost went into kind of, like, shock because it was like, oh, something like I'm such an overthinker as well, that things that I've overthought in the past, and then I've been proven that I'm just an overthinker.
Yeah, but I just
Um,
think I'm not an overthinker.
yeah,
I'm quite like, until something happens, I won't deal with it. I just wasted my time to worry about it now, most of the time. But I still felt like that.
yeah,
I think it's adrenaline and shock and just the purity of something really huge happening to you and you having
yeah,
no control over it. You don't know anything about it at that point, and then you're. I remember making a list because we went up to see the geneticist a couple of days later, and I look back now and I started journaling and I was like, I wrote down like, is anything I did to
yeah,
I'm getting emotional talking about this now. I think hearing just like how it I just know that feeling, and it's a
yeah,
lot, isn't it? And I think back to it quite a lot, and you must do as well. But my initial early day questions were like, is there anything we did that caused this? Is there anything I can do now to help baby? Because you're you're then worrying about their health, aren't you? So you had that worry, and then they were saying to me like you could go into early labour because you've got the
yeah,
polyhydramnios, which they'd have said the same to you.
yeah. You do. It's the pressure. Like you've had this pressure, like the whole pregnancy. I guess with you as well. Like this was my first pregnancy. That thinking, but yours. This was your second child. So like
Yeah,
again, I know you hadn't had. I know you had some other stuff going on as well with your pregnancy. So
yeah,
obviously that pressure building up and going on must have just been like it's like your glass is just getting so full, and then you're like, I'm the only one that can control this glass, but I'm not able to do it because I have no control at how this baby grows. It's just growing, and now
yeah,
I've got people giving me the sympathy tilt, and it's at me for this situation. All I done was 5 minutes worth of that, and now I'm here and I've failed in
yeah.
some way. That's what it feels like. I think you just, yeah, I completely get that.
And it is like you get given this huge piece of news, and I don't know how else it should look, I guess. But I remember how isolated it felt for me because I'm the one with the baby inside me, and you automatically like no one else can know how it feels because it's only you physically going through it. Obviously, your family and friends are emotionally there with you, you know, to a certain extent. But I remember, yeah, just feeling like this is really weird that like 2
Yeah,
days has passed and no one professionally has called me to say, "How are you?" or "Do you have any questions?" And it was like, how can this just be your job? But this
yeah,
is my reality. And yeah, I mean, I've got really strong views on like if you're for families that are given genetic diagnosis, no matter what day of the week it is, I think you should be allocated someone and have like an
100%.
expert attached. You have a
Yeah.
number and because it's you don't just think about things during that. In fact,
No.
most of my thinking and questions came up at 3 a.m. in the morning when I
Yeah.
couldn't sleep and I was on the verge of a panic attack, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And you just become like so overwhelmed with everything that you just don't know where to start. And as well, I felt like I could talk to Lawrence, but I couldn't tell him what I was thinking or
No.
feeling. It was like because also then I didn't want to upset him and make him feel like he had to deal with my emotions on top of him then trying to process that something's wrong with his baby because he's very much a part of this as well. But when you're the vessel, it just becomes so like, yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. And I remember I got one phone call over that weekend, and it was from somebody at Worthing Hospital speaking to me, just confirming that the blood test has been sent off, blah, blah, blah. And that if it does come back, the baby has Down syndrome, then we can talk about options and you can terminate. And I was like, that's the only thing that somebody's called me up this weekend to tell me is that if it does come back that baby has Down syndrome, I can get rid of him. Like
And
that.
not a conversation to have over the phone, Jesus Christ.
No, 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 not a conversation over the phone. And that wasn't the first. That was I had two conversations over the phone, I think with two different people, same thing, offering me and say like and one of the I had it on phone and then a face to face, and then the day before I was going in to get induced I had another phone call saying, just to let you know there is still options, do you still want to go ahead with being induced or would you like to terminate? And I'm just like, I'm booked
It's
in to be induced, like, tomorrow.
and
What's my
mentally,
response?
that makes you feel like you shouldn't be doing that, and I it's like when that consultant said to me, "Oh, is it just bad luck then?" And it's like, "Well, you're gonna make someone feel like it's really bad what's happened to them if you say stuff
Yeah.
like that." And, like, yeah, surely there's something that with conditions like that where people might make that decision, you gather that information early on and then you bloody well drop it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I said from word go, I didn't have the test done because I personally, with the person that way I am and my headset, I
Doesn't
did not
matter.
touch anything. And I don't judge anybody for doing their own thing. If you would, I've
No,
always said if
of
somebody would
course.
like to have genetic testing done, there is ways you can do that, and then you can make your decision. And I will never judge anybody for that. I would love to give them a shoulder and a perspective that, well, how life could be, obviously, because I
Yeah.
am pro Down syndrome, but I would never ever, think I would just maybe not want to talk about it in detail with that person, but I would just, each their own. But I said from where I go, like, I'm not getting rid of this baby, like, I'm having this baby kind of thing. And then to be asked 3 times. And imagine if, like, I'd been in such like which I was in a very vulnerable
Vulnerable.
place, and
Yeah.
I got pushed into a decision because, you always know, like, when somebody asks you once, twice, that third time is when people normally give in or they change their mind.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, all right, I'll have the lift home then." Like, what if that had been something that I'd done at 37 weeks pregnant, and then I would have had to live with being pressured into that kind of decision? It would have, but thank goodness I didn't. I was
Yeah.
strong amongst everything. I was strong and, yeah, said
You
no.
certainly were. And with that in mind, was there anything you wish someone had said to you in those early days?
I just wish somebody had. So loads of people were asking me, "Is there any questions that you've got? Is there any? Have you got any questions for us? Have you got this at the other?" And it was just like, no, I literally, I don't know. My brain's going
How am I
to.
meant to know what questions? Yeah.
Yeah. I wish somebody had just turned round to me and said, "Are you okay? And if there's any help, like, here's resources, here's a charity, here's this." And I did get that eventually, and I will, like, PADS has been a lifesaver. When I finally got that diagnosis, which was at 36 weeks, 35, 36 weeks, I got the diagnosis over a phone call. "Sorry, are you sitting down? You're not driving, are you?" And I was like,
I had the
"No."
same.
And it was just, like, so impersonal and so disrespectful, and just I
Oh
was
no,
just.
I had a call the day before to say it's all come back negative.
I remember you saying, yeah.
He's fine. And
Yeah.
then a call the
And
next day. Yeah.
which is bizarre because you say that and I didn't have that good diagnosis, but when he had his heart stuff go on, we got told on that day, his heart scan, his holds, it's all closed up and he was fine. He's not going to need an operation anymore. And this is at 8 weeks old. And then not even 24 hours later, got a phone call saying you need to come in tomorrow because the consultants looked at it and he needs open heart surgery ASAP. And I was just like, so
Jesus.
we'd celebrated almost, like, told all our family,
One
and then
less
we were
thing to
like,
worry about.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
And
mad.
it's that feeling, it's that
Yeah,
spring back to adrenaline and out and in and out. That's the
yeah.
traumatic thing when you go through something like this.
Yeah, but it's just a complete roller coaster, and you just don't know when it's gonna stop and when it's gonna go up again. It's
So, how was your birth with Jax?
To be fair, like, Lawrence was an absolute lifesaver, and he throughout was just absolutely amazing because he just kept me smiling and really empowered me. He knew that he couldn't do anything in particular himself. Obviously, he wasn't pushing baby out or anything.
Yeah,
So
I
he
was just going to say before you answered that, are you, because again, I don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people listening won't know, because with Arlo's condition, they recommend that you have an elective C-section because of head size. I just wondered, are there any physical complications in that sense with Jack's condition, or did your birth plan change at all? Or
No, so I had to have him in Southampton. So the only difference was because if I went into spontaneous labour, he'd have to be then transported to Southampton because they wouldn't know how the blockage was affecting him. And then obviously, after we found out he had Down syndrome, there could have also be other, like, heart and feeding issues and stuff that go on. So we had to go to Southampton, but they advised to just like
Carry
vaginal
on as
birth.
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. See how it went, and it took a long time. He was not ready to come out, so I went in on the Tuesday, and he was born on the Friday.
Why were you induced then?
Because of my polyhydramnios, whatever it was, and because obviously with his stuff that's going on, he started to have some reduced movements. So they, and because I had to be in Southampton, it was just better to control the
Right.
environment there, kind of things.
I'm with you. Okay.
And they were absolutely fantastic. And before, so from the 34 weeks when I found out about everything till the 37 weeks that I went in, I was up there twice a week, um, to Southampton to get checked and monitored and stuff and make sure his growth was okay and everything, and that he wasn't in any distress. And I had to go to Worthing every other day to get monitored as well. So it was very, that last bit of pregnancy, I'd had such a lovely, beautiful pregnancy. And then that last bit of pregnancy was just appointment after appointment. My brother, like, he saved the day because my partner doesn't drive. Well, he drives me mad. No, I'm joking. He just, so my brother was taking me to every Southampton appointment. And yeah, lifesaver. And he actually took me up for when I was getting induced as well. And I just remember that he's my younger brother, 2 years younger than me, but he's always felt like an older brother to me.
Mm.
We're very close. So I just remember, like, when I said goodbye to him, I was just like, thanks for everything. And he was like, don't look at me. Don't look at
Yeah.
her. It was just,
We we got a lift up. We were going to get a taxi, and Lloyd's dad insisted. It's such a weird drive, isn't it? Because you know the
yeah,
next time you see those people, and then there was all the emotion attached, like you would have had with
yeah.
Jax, with Harlow, and yeah, Lloyd's dad, when he dropped us, it was a bit like that. Everyone's eyes were completely full up, and it was just like, yeah, such an emotional
Stop looking at each
moment.
other. Stop looking at each other. But
Yeah.
yeah. The on the Friday, I actually had to have my waters broken, and I then had to have the hormone drip, which was
Okay.
brutal. I really
Yeah.
struggled with that. It went
Whole
from
other
0.
podcast there.
Yeah, go that another thing. But yeah, so I then had an epidural, and then eventually had to be rushed to, not rushed, but had to be taken swiftly to theatre to have forceps, which still makes me clench. But yeah, so
Yeah.
but he come out, and I was really worried. They were worried how he was going to be quite small and stuff. He come out at 7 pounds 6,
Oh wow.
considering he had a blockage as well in his bowel. Like, he was doing so well, and he come out screaming like
Oh,
he,
amazing.
yeah. So that's it. And I was so worried that I was not going to recognize my baby, and that I was just going to
Yeah.
be like, who's this baby with Down syndrome on me? But as soon as I saw him, it was just like, I was very lucky, and I do feel like I'm very blessed because I know it's a privilege to feel that instantly. But just, he was on my chest, and
Yeah, a
I
lot of
was
people don't feel that
overcome.
even without
Yeah,
without that
yeah,
genetic thing. I do a lot of talking to clients about how it's okay if that moment isn't what you'd
yes,
envisaged. Yeah.
yeah. I guess with everything that had gone on, that was a little bit of like
Nerve wrack relief.
yeah, it was a little bit of kind of like reassurance that we were going to be okay. It was just going to be a different experience. But yeah, he was beautiful. Then he got rushed off to neonatal, because obviously he had to have his checks done. And then yeah, that's when they found out that he had 3 holes in his heart, and he had obviously the duodenal atresia. And within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, they were taking him to go and have his first surgery on his bowels, and he has a little incision on his stomach, and he done so bloody well. But yeah, that whole postpartum was
Wild.
it was what, and even like thinking back to it, like just a minute ago when you like started speaking and like say, you instantly like get
Mm.
the lump in your throat and the eyes, because you're like, sometimes you forget that how far you've come and how difficult it was, and you don't want to always bang on about it, and it's not always there, but when you
But it
talk
is.
about it,
It is always there.
yeah. And like, there's always bittersweet moments, like when a birthday's coming up, and I'm looking back, and then I'm just like, the day he was born was just, it was a celebration, but it really wasn't. It was the start of something that was just
A line in the new chapter.
so scary. But we were there for 16 days, and then we come home, which was great. And then obviously we had the whole heart checks still, so we had to keep going to Southampton.
But when earlier when you said about the hypervigilance, which I think does start from the point that you find out, and I look back at newborn pictures now, and I was on such high alert that it
Mm.
really infiltrated my experience of that postpartum bit. And I was about to say to you, kind of, how did becoming a parent to a child with Down syndrome, Jax, shape your postpartum period? And I guess it wasn't just about Jax's genetic condition, it was about all of his physical conditions that you were also
Yeah.
facing in that time as well.
I think the diagnosis postpartum bit didn't come until about 11, 12 weeks old. I think that's when it was like, right, we've got the really scary stuff out of the way here. We've got the
Right.
2
Yeah. So you had to
surgeries.
park it.
I had to kind of park it, and I remember the day that, so obviously they have this blood test that you have prenatally, and it come back at 95% chance, and I remember everyone kept saying, "Oh, there's still 5% chance, 5% chance," and I think my dad, bless him, was the only one that turned around and was like, "Baby's got Down syndrome, and that's okay," and I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, thanks, like, you've
Was
literally
that
just."
nice?
It was
Yeah.
so nice. I just remember that moment, it's what I needed to hear, and I know
Good
that
old dads.
I know
My
Dad's
dad
changing
said
up.
to me, we got on the train home at Denmark Hill from fetal medicine unit, and I always get upset when I say this, but I was on the train, as you said, out of body experience, and he phoned me in and he said, Spud, because it was Spud. I can't remember the exact words now, but it was something like, maybe this is actually a 1 in 30,000 amazing thing that's happening to us, and
Yeah.
maybe he's gonna change our family for the better and teach us that we're really lucky to have him. And it was like, I wasn't really ready to receive that news
No.
at that point. But now I look back, I'm like, that was such a brave and kind thing to say to me.
They know exactly, like, what you might not know you need at that time to hear, but they know it's like, I feel like my dad saying, "Oh, baby, like 5%, like, baby has Down syndrome and it's okay." It was like the first time that somebody was telling me that, like,
You need
it's
to
yeah.
face this
Yeah,
because
I
you
need
do,
to
your
face them.
mind does. I was like, until I see the amniocentesis on paper, until I was looking, my mind was looking for ways to escape my
Yeah,
reality. And
yeah.
actually, people do meet you with that. Oh, and I remember also one of my friends, when we sent a message to everyone saying, this is happening and our child's going to have this, and we're letting you know, and we might not reply to you soon, and da da da. And I remember her replying saying, "Oh my God," because we found out the gender at that point. A baby brother for Alba, how exciting! He's going to be amazing. And I remember thinking, cool, like you've not really said anything about it. But now I look back now, and I'm like, again, that was such a nice
It was.
response.
Because it's also like they know that you're gonna be struggling with this whole new curveball in your life and this new, like, it's one thing I would always choose Jackson, like, today, yesterday, tomorrow, I'll always choose him, but no one plans to have a child with any kind of difficulties that they're gonna have. Like, we all try and aim for our children to be as happy, as healthy, and as thriving as they possibly can be. So when we are thrown a little bit of a curveball and we're like, it's just going to have a couple of different, things going on, and especially with the health stuff with Jax, like some dad just turning around and saying it's okay. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be
Mm.
hard. Yeah. But, and then it was like 3 days. It was so he was born on the Friday, and on the Wednesday, sorry, the following Wednesday was when we had the blood test back from actually Jackson. And I kept telling everybody, oh, he has Down syndrome. But all our family was saying, "Oh, he doesn't look like he's got Down syndrome. Oh, wait till the blood test come back." And like even like some friends and stuff, and it was just like, "Oh, it's not very obvious. Like, are you sure?" Like, and Lawrence was like, "Oh, does he?" And I remember turning around to a nurse, and I was like, "Oh, I think we're just waiting for the blood test to come back." And she was like, "What do you think when you look at your baby?" And I was like, "He has Down syndrome." And she was like, "He's beautiful." And I was like, "He is." And it was just like in that moment when we actually finally sat down, they again presented it to us as if it was like a death sentence, and it was just like, so I know that they must have to disconnect themselves to a certain extent because they probably give this news to people all the time. But to have a little bit of softness around your face and to be like, congratulations. And yeah, so the postpartum thing, like, actually the diagnosis wasn't until I think all the scary stuff had happened. And I don't know whether there was like this one moment where I was like, I still fit now. I have troubles sometimes when I'm dropping him to school. Sometimes I'm like, that I have explained it to you before, the diagnosis can feel heavy. It's not bad, it's not a burden, it just feels heavy on you and
It's
like
like a heavy cloud that sits
yeah.
there. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to remember that like, okay, I have to be his advocate. I have to make him feel empowered so that he doesn't feel that heaviness. And if he does feel that heaviness, I can let him know that it's okay and we can move through it and stuff like that. But yeah, the postpartum bit, and it was when I couldn't go to baby classes because every baby class I went to, there is all these mums talking about how beautiful their children were and how they weren't sleeping and they're doing a sleep regression. And then I had my baby who was very delayed and was still laying down and couldn't sit up at 6 months and stuff. So I guess that diagnosis was quite heavy throughout that
I hadn't really
postpartum
thought about
period.
that, Chanene, because we'd done NCT with Alba and we had our crew and
Mm,
we were
I
never gonna
didn't.
do it NCT again. So, yeah, I feel like that's would have been too hard now with the comparables, but also that's did you kinda grieve that you didn't have that bounce off group going through? Because I guess what I'm saying is that can feel quite isolative, can't it?
Yeah. I did. I have a really big family, so I was very lucky because I was still going out and being with loved ones and stuff. But I didn't, yeah, I didn't really have that. I didn't have my mums. Like other people seem to have their like mum friends and they're like, you know, having babies all the time and they're like besties for life. And I didn't really have that. And even I've always felt really guilty for saying this, but even when I was going around with family, he has a couple of cousins that are about 6, 7 months younger than him. And then when they're literally just meeting milestone after milestone way before Jax is, it was like I'd always leave a family event and I'd always just feel really just sad.
Yeah.
Like and I know this they always appreciate they're brilliant mums and stuff like that. And I know that they don't take their children for granted. But when you're looking in as somebody who feels so isolated and so sad that you're like celebrating your baby rolling over at 6 months instead of like sitting up at 6 months. Like in hindsight, like it doesn't matter, but in that moment you're looking and you're just like you don't you've just like posted it on Instagram as if it's nothing. And I'm like
But
working
those
with
2 things
physio
can
therapist.
Yeah, those 2 things can coexist. So we had the same thing last week. We got a little post on his nursery app for him holding a cup with one hand and drinking at age 2.
Yeah.
And I sent it to the family, and then in the same breath, I felt really sad that that was our reality, but
Yeah.
really proud of him. And we've also got family members who have got, you know, young babies, not even a year yet, that are nearly double the size of Arlo. And it's like
Yeah.
you can have the love for your family, you can love the other children to bits, but it whether you like it or not, it does reflect back to you, and it just I always say, like, I'm having a bit of a heavier heart day today. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel it. I'm just feeling it a bit more. So you have to so much energy to not be sensitive and not internalize it and personalize
Yeah.
it because it's such a unique experience.
Yeah. And it's sort of it's one like it's a me problem because it's just my life and it's my emotional attachment to my child. And quite often, I don't know if this is similar to you, but sometimes I will say about Jackson's differences, but and then loved ones or like friends, family, they will come back at me with, "Oh, but he's doing so well. He's like he's doing that. He's such a happy little boy." And I'm like, I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that
This is hard.
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard, and he's 4, nearly 5, and he can't tell me what he needs. So he bites me or he headbutts the floor and gets so distressed. Or he's poorly and I haven't realised until he's got a spike in temperature because he he doesn't present the same as other children. And yeah, it's just like sometimes I just want to moan and be
Yeah,
like,
and it's
"What?"
hard. Like, I know my mum has said to me a couple of times, like, "Oh, I didn't realize you felt like that. Why didn't you tell me?" And I was like, "Mum, I don't want to call you and just cry all the time. I don't want our conversations to just be negative all the time." And sometimes I do just have to have like a little cry to myself or just have a day where I don't speak to anyone as much or I just avoid certain situations because I know that I'm going to probably like bring the mood down.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it's that it's really hard to articulate that it is a constant journey, and you can
Yeah.
feel happiness and sadness at the same time, and that's the harder part of this journey, I
Yeah.
guess.
And I feel like, because I had Jackson first and then we had Lara quite quickly after, seeing her become this really clever, fast learning, like she hit every milestone like within the time that you're meant to hit it. And then it's actually probably when I really started to like grieve the baby I originally dreamt of with Jax. Oh God. Because it was almost like it was a wake up call of how different it was because we didn't know anything different because Jax was our first. So then
Yeah,
when we met
okay.
Lara, and even like down to like I did have the testing, I had the blood test done with Lara because obviously where we had one baby with Down
You
syndrome,
need to know.
you can
Yeah.
get it. And I remember that phone call we had, and they're like, "Oh, we've got the news. It's really good news. She's fine. There's no T21 present." And I was just like, "Okay, thank you." And then it was the fact that that was given to me as good news. And then in
Mm.
that moment, I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, because this is almost like saying that I am happy that I'm not going to have another baby like Jack.
Yeah, wow.
And I remember I rung Lawrence, and I hadn't said this, and my mum was there, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And she didn't really say anything. And I remember I rung Lawrence, and I said, "Oh, it's come back, and test is fine. Like, she hasn't got Down syndrome." And he was just like, "I feel really weird." And then that's when I started crying. I was like, "So do I." Like, I'm not happy. I'm not like, so I'm actually feel really guilty for the fact that
You
there
feel
was a little
anything.
bit of a relief. There was
I
like
don't
a tiny
yeah.
bit of relief, but it was almost like I was saying to people, like, it really doesn't matter. And like, because we went into it very quickly, because I knew that if we didn't, I
Mm,
wouldn't. And
mm.
I always wanted children close together. And yeah, that was, I think having Lara was probably the time when I started to really grieve what we originally thought.
It's really interesting you say that because on the flip side, I think it happens the other way around as well. So I went to get some clothes out of storage yesterday for Arlo of Alba's,
Mhm.
and I was looking at what he fits into now and remembering how big she was, you
Yeah,
know, and it just I think it does just like tap you on the shoulder and haunt you a little bit. But I think
yeah,
also the really important thing to remember in all of this is that actually the negative connotations that we have with the conditions is the hardest part is what makes life harder for them.
yeah,
So actually the relief you're feeling is the fact that your child will have less challenges in life.
yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah. Mm.
So we talked about those challenges that have stood out. So how
Yeah,
did you work through them, and what support, and I know you mentioned the charity earlier, and I know from sharing my experiences that the best thing when am feeling a certain way is to reach out to the group of achondroplasia mums that I've got, that I just say,
yeah,
"Oh my god," blah, 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 and they get it, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah," and the community is so important, isn't it? So
yeah.
what's helped you?
Yeah, so obviously when I first found out about Jackson prenatally, the PAD, so it's Positive About Down Syndrome charity, they sent me a card, a book, and a little hat saying congratulations. And the book was just full of families across, I think it's Brighton and West Sussex.
Yeah,
And I remember I was crying and I was flickering and I couldn't read it just then in that moment, but it stayed on the side and it was there. And he wore his hat when he was born and it had the colours of the charity on. And then I was added to Facebook groups and stuff. And I'm not really, I wasn't sharing anything on social media anyway. So it was kind of like I joined the group, but I am that kind of quiet observer. um, but now I think I'm on two WhatsApp groups. So I've got one for Brighton and one for Worthing and West Sussex because I'm in the middle. I'm in Southwick, so I kind of get two. And we've done quite a few like little meetups, not as many as I'd like to, because obviously life
no
is,
distance. Yeah,
yeah, distance and stuff. But honestly, like, even though that I'm not present in that conversation, the group chats, as much as I'd like to be, because life, I would just check in once a day, and the amount of support and just like, they don't try and fix anything.
just offload. Yeah,
They just, yeah, you can just be having a bad day, be like, somebody will just put in and say, "Oh, I really don't know if your ones have been like this, but the sleep apnea is really bad at the moment," or tonsils at the moment. I think this time of year, like there's a lot of children with Down syndrome that are having their tonsils taken out or have, and the advice, the encouragement, the support, the non-judgment, like the pictures that are shared,
Safe
and
space.
so it honestly, I don't know whether they realise it. I do every now and then. I'm like, sorry, I'm not presencing, but thank you so much. And then when I go to write a question or I have something that I need help with, I always feel guilty. But they never ever let me, like they're just all there with their like encouragement and stuff. Yeah, they're absolutely amazing. They do meetups in the Brighton one as well, and stuff. And it's so nice when so when I normally go to like soft play and stuff, Jackson's the odd one out. Very rarely have we been to a soft play and there have been another child with Down syndrome there. It's like so many of them, and I know there is because I'm in a group with them and I see them
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
and stuff. But then when you go to do an activity like that, you'll very rarely see anybody that is like your child. So then when we have these meetups and there's literally just like 10 to like 12 children
Amazing.
with Down syndrome, it's just
One less
I
thing
don't
to think about in the moment.
and
Yeah.
it's and all different abilities, all different needs, and like, there's somebody, a beautiful little girl, Cherry, who is Jackson's age. She's a little bit older than Jackson, and she's gone to mainstream school as well. And her speech is just amazing. She's having conversation, and it's so lovely to see because like Jackson obviously is like I would say pre-verbal because he is really giving talking a go, but he's just not quite got there yet. He uses Makaton. And like just seeing that and then seeing there's another little boy, Benji, he's the cheekiest and loving, he just cuddles everybody and seeing seeing their achievements and how like refreshing it is to just be so relatable to
Celebrate
somebody.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
relatable and they just constantly, yeah, they're so uplifting.
So with that in mind, how has your understanding of Down syndrome changed over the last 4 years since having Jax?
Oh, I'm ashamed to say this, but like I said at the beginning, like, I didn't know much about Down syndrome. I just knew that it was something to do with chromosomes. I didn't even know like what extent of the chromosomal imbalance was or anything like that. Like I didn't know it was an extra copy of the 21 chromosome. Um, so I think like I'm a bit ashamed to say that, but getting to know children and young adults and anyone with Down syndrome, I just feel like they bring so much joy and they are worthy of achieving and thriving within the same community of everybody else, that if you just get to know them and the way they are and like their little quirks and stuff, look, Jackson is literally a mixture of me and Lawrence together, and I don't know whether that's a good thing, but like he he is so much like us that if from like first glance, I guess people would be like, "Oh, it's a child does who doesn't talk." Da, da. When you get to know him, you can see us in there, and it's like that. I just wasn't aware of that. I generally just thought that children with Down syndrome were just so different from their families. It's like, no, they're still their family. They're still their, I'm
Yeah.
like, and like the community and the surrounding and environments. Jackson is the most determined little boy I have ever been around. He's never let anything stop him from smiling and stop him from doing things his way, and he will find a way. He's
Mm.
just the strongest determined little boy ever. So I think, yeah, and they just every time I'm around anyone who hasn't known Jax or met Jax, within 10 minutes, they're smiling. And I'm like, it's not me, it's not Laura's, it's him. Like, it's just solely him because he's just so adorable and he's so loving. Yeah, I guess.
Amazing. And what advice would you give to new parents who have just maybe received a Down syndrome diagnosis?
My first bit is to just sit with whatever feeling you're feeling. Don't feel try I know you're not going to be not be able to, but don't feel guilty for feeling sad or angry or frustrated or let down by your body or anything. Just sit with it. And then when you're ready, just start looking out into the community online, especially because that's the best way to do it. Like, just, find Instagram pages that just put hashtag Down syndrome in on Instagram. And I promise, like, you will start to see just little glimmers of what could potentially be coming your way, which is just nothing other than joy, hard work,
Mm.
And the energy that they just radiate is it's just thing and as well, like, you're having a baby.
Yeah.
You're you're becoming a mother to a baby and just im just yeah, just be kind to yourself in those moments because and I just remember, like, holding Jackson and crying and then feeling guilty because I was crying because I couldn't work out where what the tears were.
Mm.
But actually all I was doing was just being his mummy, like, in that moment, and I sometimes skipped past that. I'd just wipe them away and then just be like, "Oh," and then just try and fix whatever was going on. But actually in that moment, I think that was I'd done it with Lara as well. Like, you just in
Yeah,
those moments,
processing
you're just processing this new journey
life. Yeah.
and, just find your people, whether it's people that you're aware of already or so family and friends. I have really, really supportive family and friends. Everybody in my family has embraced and loved Jack so much, and I'm very lucky. I've got a big, big family, and I've got a best friend will who will hear me when I'm sad and
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
when I need to rant and when I need to say something, and then I just ask her, I'm just like, forget what I'm going to tell you. She's like, okay, go. And I will just voice note her and just be like, I am sick of this life at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, yeah. We all need a friend like that.
Yeah. And you will find them and they are there. And if you don't know who they are, it's because you haven't met them yet. And then you'll meet them. And yeah, I wish I feel like I wish I could be that person for somebody more. But I guess
Mm.
I might, I'm still like at that stage where like sometimes it's just busy and hectic. But
Yeah,
yeah, I would definitely
you've
repay
got
that
time.
when I can. Yeah.
And how is Jax getting on now? Because I know we spoke just before Alba and Jax were starting school, and it's a nerve-wracking process anyway, and you were having to go through the EHCP process,
Oh,
which I know was incredibly stressful for you, and I
yeah.
also know that you kinda looked round other schools, and that was a really big
Yeah.
decision for you. So how's he getting on now, and how's that whole process been?
So the process, finding the school it was way more traumatic than I thought it was going to be. I think it was just like you say, like Joe, when like they're small and cute and babies, and they're kind of like everything that's like young is like, oh, look, he's so sweet. And then when you get to where they start to have tempers and they start to just be a little bit more moody and stuff, and you have to go and pick a school that are going to embrace that and try and navigate it with you is really hard. And I had a couple of bad experiences. I had one school where they turned around, we went past a room where they can go for quiet learning, and she was like, "This is where they come when they're not ready or able to learn." And, like, looked at me and Jax, and I was like in front of all these other parents, and I was like, "Excuse me?" Like, that's really rude. But, yeah, I went to see a specialist school, which we fell in love with, but I went to a mainstream school. I won't say what school it is, but it's the best decision we made. The first week was brutal, first 2 weeks, I think it was. But he runs in now. He's got the most amazing one-to-one support. She has given me comfort and hope that we're aiming for the same thing, and she is enjoying it. Like, she's enjoying
So
getting to know
important.
him, and his teacher's really amazing too. Like, before I even, like, I asked a question about so with phonics, I asked a question because with children with Down syndrome, they sometimes breaking down the word too much can be quite confusing for them with their speech and language issues. So, like, just learning just the word straight away, like, instead of going like, just mum. It's like they just learn it
Easier for them to learn that
easier
way.
for them. So, like, I've literally like, just asked her about it, and she was like, "I've already emailed last week, and they've given me advice." And then the next day, she had a full plan about what we're gonna do with Jax and how
So refreshing.
so fresh, and she's like, "We're gonna still have it at the same time. He's still gonna be involved with, like, the phonics that we do, but his one-to-one is gonna be sitting next to him and adapting it to him so that it will be a picture of, like, say, me, and then the word, and he will then sign and say the word instead of breaking it down." And I'm just like, "Wow, like, that was easy." Like,
You've got this.
it's yeah, it's been amazing, and his speech has come on so much. Like, he really
But
does love
Chanene, the
being there.
reason I think it's important to say that you went through quite a hellish process with the HCP, and I think it's important to reflect that the reason that Jax is doing so well at school is because he's got a mama that has fought for him and advocated for him, which shouldn't be the way. It shouldn't be
No.
as so hard. And I know there are plenty of families in that EHCP process at the moment that it's wild, but
Yeah.
he is so lucky to have you.
Oh,
You are incredible. No, you
okay.
are. And I don't
It's
think
always
we give
from
ourselves that
yeah,
credit sometimes. And it's been so amazing to watch you as a mum and a woman navigate this and see how great he is.
yeah. He's I just the one thing that like that having Jax has taught me is Joe before babies. You always say, I don't care that I never cared the gender. I just wanted a happy and healthy baby. I'm like, no, no. I just want a happy
P.
baby. That's all I care about. Is that's all we're thriving for in life, isn't it? Well, obviously, health is wealth and
So
everything. So
true.
sometimes when you haven't got that luxury, the main priority is just happiness. Like if I can make him happy at home, happy at school, like I've won. Like that's all
So
I.
true, because I look back now and I cringe a little bit when I used to be like, no, we're not finding out the gender as long as they're healthy. It's so true. Happiness is what makes you feel most comfortable
Yeah.
as a mum, regardless of what background is going on. If they're happy, you can do it.
Yeah. That's literally like and seeing him happy like has made has made me like feel like yeah, like, just I feel a little bit more relaxed with the school now because it was yeah, going from nursery and he had a lovely nursery and they'd done so well with him, going from nursery to, like, school and it being so, like, final, like, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
it's so much, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's just doing so well, and I went on our first school trip with him the other day. It was just for a little walk up to the park and back, and we took his buggy, so he's got, like, a bit of buggy, 'cause he can walk and stuff, but he just gets tired and just needs that 'cause of safety reasons as well. So we, like, walked up to the buggy, and then he walked the whole way back holding my hand. He was joining in with his friends, like, and like, the friends there as well, like, it's just like, oh, he's just Jack. Somebody walked past and was like, oh, that's my friend Jackson. He doesn't talk, but he does some signing. And
My God, I bet you were gulping back the tears, weren't you?
honestly, I was just like crying. And he was like, oh, his teacher tells us what he wants and what he's saying, and I'm just like, oh, it's finished now. Is it finished now? Oh, good girl.
Right on cue. No, because we're like totally finishing up now anyway. So, um, I can't thank you enough for sharing. I didn't realise how cathartic that process was going to be for me because I think although our situations are very different, we have sons with differences. And I think just, again, getting these conversations out there and talking about how it will all be okay because no one really says that to you at the beginning. And everyone around you is going through it for the first time as well. So I know that there'll be so many people that will get comfort out of this conversation and so many people that agree with me in their sense of how incredibly strong you are and how lucky Jax is to have you. And I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you. Honestly, I
No.
feel like we've known each other for so long as well. But actually, if I think about it, the first time that I come across you was when you done that podcast,
Yeah, we both did the same motherhood.
and I mentioned and said about like possibly doing it. I was like, oh, I see it, and then I
Yeah.
saw yours, and I was in tears because I was like, it was so vulnerable, relatable, and just so like I felt like I could just I don't know get comfort from it, and was like, oh, actually, maybe talking about this stuff can actually help somebody or just make somebody else feel seen. And I know that you guys do the whole juggling of everything. And, you know, when Arlo was up at the hospital, just seeing you guys just
Crack on.
navigate
You
it
got
and
to.
crack on, you do. And it's always the aftermath, isn't it? And then you're like, oh, but then you just have that Sunday where you go for a stroll, you have a nice roast dinner, and you're just in
Yeah.
your little bubble
This
again.
weekend was like the first weekend where everything felt a bit normal again. And I just want to also say, I know earlier you were like, I hope I'll be that person for someone someday. You already would have been. So, even just doing these things is being that for someone. And that wasn't there for us when we found out. So it will be there now.
I
So thank you
will
so
say,
much.
I do wish your little group thing that you've started was around when I had Jack, 'cause I reckon that would have just been it was so I'm really gutted that I haven't got a baby. Should I have another? No.
Yeah. Chanene, thank you so much for coming on. And if
Thank you.
anyone's got any questions or they want to ask Chanene anything, then just let me know and I can put you in touch. And just thank you so much for listening,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you back soon for episode 2.